Hello and welcome to another episode of In Conversation. Well, today it is another moment whereby we celebrate top achievement. Joining me in studio today is Dr. Eric Bakama. Dr. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bongani. Thank you very much for having me around.
You are here because you're the first doctor in quality engineering in Africa. Like, that's big. That's big. Of course, it was introduced at UJ in 2022. And how did you even know about this program? Let's start there.
I will call it cheating because it was actually, when it was introduced, I was one of the first to know. Because it was introduced by our department, which is the Department of Quality and Operation Management. We fall under Phoebe Engineering. So the HOD then was my master's supervisor. She was actually supervising me, which was Prof. Nita.
Yes.
Then she was like, we want to introduce a new program called Quality Engineering. So right now we're just dealing with the faculty, seeing what will be required and everything like that. So this, she didn't just say to me, it was during our departmental meeting. So that's how I find out about then. Then after that, I asked her that please let me know when it is introduced. But I didn't know that the university would be the first in Africa to introduce in our department. So for me, it was like that. It was something interesting. Let me go for it. So that was mostly the idea. So when it got introduced, I was like, it is introduced. I'm going for it.
I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And were you the only one in class throughout, or you had other colleagues there?
It is funny because my supervisor as well is doing the course.
Wow.
So she, as much as she's a professor, Prof. Nita, so she's still doing it as a second PhD.
Yes.
So there's her, as far as I know. I also got another friend of mine that we did the masters together.
All right.
Miss Alice. So she's also doing it, but now she's doing it online because she's not in South Africa.
Oh, yes.
So I think those are the 2 or 3 people that I know.
That you know of. Yeah.
I don't know about others for now.
Interesting. And now, I want you to like kind of take me through your undergrad maybe and your postgrad. How did you get to actually now start to do a PhD in quality engineering? What are the courses that you do, that you did, and how did you channel to this PhD?
Okay, I started with the University of Johannesburg in 2014.
Okay.
So then I started with my National Diploma in Operation Management. It was a 3-year program.
Yes.
Then after that, you had 1 more year to have what is currently known as Advanced Diploma.
Yes.
But back then it was called BTech, Bachelor of Technology. So I still did a BTech in Operation Management.
Yes.
Then that was already taking us to a MTech program. So there was no any intermediate bridge like now we have the honors program. They call it now postgraduate diploma. We didn't have that. So already I did my master's technology, which took me approximately 2 to 3 years. Right. I must say my master's took me longer than my PhD. And then after that, I think I finished my master's in 2020.
Okay.
2021, I took a gap year.
All right.
For many reasons. Firstly, because I didn't want to do my PhD.
All right.
No matter the field, I didn't want to. Secondly, was because when I wanted to do my PhD, I wanted to do quality engineering because I was tired of the operation management background.
Yes. And
because of that, I had to wait until it's approved. 2022, I think it got approved. That's when I started with it.
Wow. So how long did it take you to finish your PhD? 2 years?
I will say 2 years because I started January 2022.
Yes.
And then 2023, toward December, that's when I think I was done and everything. So I'll say 2 years.
Interesting. And all of this, which is another key thing for the viewer, you're only 28 attaining all those achievements.
Yes.
How did you do it? You even have a gap year in between, you know. We thought, cool, because as far as I also understood, it was like maybe master's is 2 years, from there PhD, bound to be 3 years. You know, I was like, okay. And you did it in record time.
Now, the exciting thing for me, I still fail to understand, well, I do understand, that as I said, it took me longer to do my master's than my PhD.
Okay.
The reason is because our postgraduate program, mostly masters and PhDs, are research-based.
True.
And you know, research is not easy.
Yes, it's not a walk in the park.
I really hate research methodology. I really hate the part where you have to do the literature review.
Yeah.
My favorite chapters maybe is chapter 1, the introduction, and the methodology. and the discussion of the result. But
Yeah.
anything outside of that, even referencing is a whole thing. I really hate that so much.
Yeah.
But then, what made my PhD to be longer was the fact that in my advanced diploma, I didn't really like research methodology. Mostly because I might say the way it was lectured to us, maybe I didn't like it.
Okay.
So when I started doing my master's, I felt like I had to start really to embrace research methodology first.
All right.
So in the proposal stage, it took me back to my advanced diploma years where I had to study, again, how do you do an interview, how do you develop an hypothesis. So I had spent almost like 6 months just like that. Then joining in, I didn't really realize that for me, I wanted to take any topic. And I didn't notice that that was the trap. And that's what many of us do. The mistake is for us just to choose a topic.
A topic that is out of your interest.
Yes, it is like taking an airplane without knowing where it's going. You just know that I just want to be, I'm boarding, I just want to be up there in the sky.
True.
But then when it's time to land, you don't know there's South Africa here, there's Nigeria here, there's the US, where am I going to land?
But I don't even land on the sea.
Problem. So it was difficult for me because my study back then was in operation management, and I was studying mostly about how company manage demand when it comes to products that have a short lifespan, like bread, dairy products, and everything like that. Yes. So the biggest barrier that I faced then was finding companies that will open their doors for me to collect data and interview. And you know, already the food industry, they're very skeptical of coming there and interviewing them. And it was already hard for me. So I'd spent almost 4 to 6 months collecting data just for interview. And I was just able to get like, I think 150 if I'm not mistaken. It was very hard. So I'd taken a long time there. But after doing that, so I would just say like it took me almost a year or a year and a half just to collect, to reach until my chapter 3.
Yes.
And then after that, it was quite easy to do the analysis and everything like that.
Yeah.
But now for the PhD, it was different. Yes. So in the time I finished my master's and I took a gap year, I was interested by one of my colleagues, Dr. Katu. She was like, no, I'm taking some master student. I would like you as well to work with me when it comes to supervision. Like, okay, fine. And that year was a gap year. I was like, let me embark into something. But then I had loved research somehow. So that's how I started. Now, in that journey as a supervisor, it's easy because you are the one that is telling the student what to do. And that made my life easier because now I had a bigger perspective of what are the steps. So when you start with a proposal. After the proposal, maybe you apply for ethical approval and all those kind of things. So I had really a much bigger perspective. When it comes to the ethical clearance, I've known already that this is what they're expecting you to do. When you design your questionnaire, this is how it's supposed to be. These are the features that you need to have in your study. So it made it much easier. And I think after I graduated, my first 2 students, I was like, let me go for my PhD. Now, studying the PhD as a supervisor is different than just that as a student. Because then I knew that, for example, when you are starting, your proposal should be this long. As much as I had a supervisor, even for her, I might be mistaken, but I think it was kind of quite easy for my supervisor because I was also already into the supervising stage, so I knew it was much easier for me to give her what was expected.
Even the relationship, it was more like colleagues.
Yes, because I already worked with her even for my master's, you see. So it was already easy for me to work with her again for my PhD. And our relationship was professional to know there's a time for me to report to her as a HOD, there's a time for me to report to her as a student. So that's how it became much easier for me when I started. I remember the ethical clearance, for example, was it generally takes sometimes 3 to 4 weeks, if you're lucky. I don't know if the system has changed now, but mine took 2 weeks. And when it came, it already approved, not like approved with minor revision. It was approved because I had known already how to apply for it, what are the things they need the most, based on my experience when I was supervising already. So that saved me a lot of time because instead of 4 weeks, I had saved already like 2 weeks. Data collection as well, because I knew what I wanted to do. And it was already in my field of interest to know that I'm already lecturing and this work is in academia. I didn't struggle much to get data and everything. After getting all the permission from institutions and everything, it was much easier for me just to dive in. And because my data as well, I collected them online because I really wanted to implement this new technology. So it was much easier than you disseminate the questionnaire, people respond, you could get and everything. I think in almost less than a month, I was able to reach more than 300 responses, which had made my life much easier, and the analysis even when we continue the study.
Interesting. Yeah. And that is where I want us to actually go with this. As you said, choosing a topic is important. And your topic was generally about, your thesis was about designing a framework that combined quality and education 4.0. So if you always had love for education, and of course you integrated the fourth industrial aspect, which is like getting your data online and integrating with it. I just want to find out, choosing this topic, was it always your passion to understand quality and education?
It wasn't my passion to say that, because initially I never thought even of being a lecturer. So this takes me back to how I started I don't know if I should go to that first before I take you. So for me, it was mostly that lecturing, I was doing it just like for fun, to say that as much as they are paying you, the job is kind of free. You can have your own time. You can really see when I can do my research, when I can lecture, and when I can do the admin. So as I started, I started noticing a problem now into my years of lecturing. Because when I started lecturing, I only had the master's then. And after 2, 3, 4 years, I noticed that, especially with operation management, knowing that it is also a topic that is not really well known into the industry. Because the challenge we have with our students after their third year, they have to do a work integrated learning. When they go in the workplace, they're like, no, I'm doing operation management. Companies are like, what is operation management? What makes you different from a manager? And we noticed that our students were struggling for that. Organization, especially small companies, don't know what operation management is about. Maybe medium and large companies do, but even with them, they are skeptical about taking some of our students because those positions are already senior positions. So now it made it like the question came to me to say, first of all, are we even preparing our students for industry? Or we are just giving them a qualification and then they go out there and then they swim? Secondly, what made me choose the topic was after COVID. After COVID, I realized that the question that came, and actually that was even my problem statement, it was like, how robust is our education system? In a way that after COVID, most of us start questioning many things, not just education, our life choices, our career choices. Personally, after COVID, I was like, if I was a doctor, I would have been rich by now, and everything like that. But then I realized that when it comes to education, South Africa in general, as much as we saw the pandemic coming, we just felt like it was just some Twitter memes, Instagram memes, and laughing about COVID, but we didn't see it coming. When it came, we were not prepared, at least most higher institutions. Now we had to adapt. How are we going to be doing our classes? How are we going to be doing now exams? How should we do continuous? How is it going to work? Whereas even some of our staff were not prepared to embrace technology fully, students as well. So that's why I realized that our education, we should see if it is really robust because of this that happened, because it was disrupted. And on top of that, now we see if it is not, or even if it is, how can we combine it as well with technology so that we can have a proper quality. That's why I brought the concept of quality 4.0 into the study.
Into the study itself.
Yeah.
And what are some of your key findings in your research?
As it was kind of interesting. So when I started the study, my assumption was just that our education was not robust.
Okay.
Now, that was my assumption because of what I saw. But after doing the study, when you're doing research, you remove your feelings. You're like, whatever I'm going to find, this is what I'm going to find. Based on my result and everything, the first thing that I found out is like, somehow the education was robust. The problem comes with the definition of robust. What is considered as robust? So in the study, when I was doing my literature review, I had to realize that robustness is not just about adapting to change, like sometimes we do in business. But in the education sector, we are also looking maybe at factors such as employability. Do our students find it easy to find a job when they are done? The skills that they get, are they sometimes needed in the organization, or we just give them some skills? The curriculum that we have, is it addressing the real life problems?
Yes.
Somehow, there's a bigger percentage, more than 50% of my studies reveal that, yes, some of those concepts are already in. So the thing now was mostly just to see that as much as it is robust, is it a way to improve it? Because if it was very robust, we would have not been disrupted by the pandemic, for example. Because there are some countries such as the UK, for example, the US, even when COVID hit, the education system was not as affected as ours because they were already embracing technologies. Students were already into this thing of self-learning, but with us it was different. With us, after COVID came, we stopped our classes. And I thought was like there was a problem with that, and those are the few things that I could now be working on, see what we could improve on that.
Yeah. And did it actually assist in terms of developing the framework?
It did, because in the last part of the work, I presented a framework. But my framework, while it is a theoretical framework, and I think maybe this is some recommendation for future study, and even myself, I'm trying to go now to that to say that as much as we presented the framework, it still needs to be developed to see what can be, between brackets, to see what can be the major challenges that we can face. Because right now, the framework had actually 4 parts. The first part, the framework looks at the student himself, or the learner. The second stage, it looks at the instructor. The third stage, it looks at the higher education institution itself, like in this case, we might talk about UJ, for example. And then the fourth one, it now looks at the old curriculum. Actually, the third one is the curriculum, and the fourth one is the institution. So the first one, we are looking at the student to say that in the current era we are living, if we are talking about Industry 4.0, then there is also Learner 1.0, Learner 2.0, Learner 3.0, and Learner 4.0. Just going to take an example to say that if we look at Learner 1.0, it is this type of learner that, during that time of philosophers, Jesus, used to be this kind of instructor, and actually Jesus got his disciples. Same thing for these philosophers, they had followers. And those one were people that indeed they were followers. We don't question what you say. 1 + 1 = 2 is the gospel, we take it. You see, we don't, that was Learner 1.0. Learner 2.0 was about, I'm not just learning, I'm also applying what you told me. 1 + 1 = 2. I replicate what you say. I can try to add a little bit of my touch, but I'm still staying in your line. Then we got as well a Learner 3.0. This is where I think as African we are. I stand to be corrected, but I think in Africa we are still at the Learner 3.0, whereby you are a student, you go to school, you work with teams, you got a little bit of critical thinking, but at the end of the day, what the lecturer will say, this is as well where we're going to sit at. But now the Learner 4.0 is the new type of learner that goes with technology now. So the learner feels, first of all, that there's not even need for me to be going to class every day, because technology is there to help me. If I miss a class, there's some recording. If I miss a class, I can learn it. The assignment we are giving to our students now, it is about critical thinking. That's why it is not about just giving you the memo. So you can give us your perspective. And because of that, we can give you marks for that. You don't pass because you gave me what I gave you, what is on the memo, but you pass because of your way of thinking. And this is, between brackets, the Learner 4.0. Unfortunately, in Africa, we have not yet embraced that, to know that because of many other factors. So as I say now, the problem is, this is how the education sector should be looking at the learner. But our curriculum now are shaped to somehow accommodate learners that are 3.0 with teachers that are also 3.0. While we are now moving into the 4th industrial revolution. This is some of the things. When it comes to the instructor himself, we also have the instructor 1.0, 2.0, 3, and 4. The 1.0 instructor is, as I said, is like you look at all this time with the philosophers. It was the person who comes when whatever he says, it is the gospel.
Because, yes.
If you doubt, they can even kill you. Take the example of there's oh, I forgot. He was actually killed because he said that it was not the sun that was turning around the earth. It was the other way around. I forgot his name and everything. But those are people that try to challenge the status quo that was there. So this is a knowledge that is there. What gives you the right to say that this is wrong? That was the Instructor 1.0. So for him, what he said is there. Then we got the Instructor 2.0, and I think that's what even happened, whereby we got some students that got chased away from schools, especially back then with Catholic school. Whatever they are saying, this is what we need to embrace. If you are saying something that is against that, they can chase you. They consider you as a rebel in school because you want to change how things are. Then we got the Instructor 2.0 now. That started embracing, but we are also trying to give a little bit of a pace to our learner to learn. Instructor 3.0, I think this is where we still are in Africa, where the instructor is there, is working, is giving you a little bit of a room to improve, but at the end of the day, what I say still stands. That's why it was even difficult. I remember, even the way we grew up, our parents, it's hard for them to say they're wrong. Like,
yeah, true.
Even a teacher, like,
you'll never hear.
Even if the teacher is wrong, you must say your method is right, but I think you should go with this one and everything. So we don't give that thing to know that, no, I'm a lecturer, I'm an instructor, I can be wrong as well. The student might come up with something that is different. Now, when we get the Instructor 4.0, he understands, first of all, there's no competition between me and AI. AI is a tool that can help me to improve how I'm lecturing. When I'm in class, it is not just me and the student, it is me, technology, and the student. Google is all-knowing.
Yes.
I can say something. Today, we don't forbid our students to come in class with their device. I can be there and I say, for example, South Africa is the first producer of copper in the world. It's a statement that I make. Now, with our current student, they have critical thinking. They can be like, oh, let me go online first and find out. And then you find out that you are lying. And then it's like, but say, this is what Google is saying, you see. So it is not just me in class, it is me and technology. While I remember in my years of high school, actually cell phone were even forbidden at school. Yes. It was considered as it is distraction. Now, you don't bring your cell phones, so whatever the lecture says, it is true. Even if he says South Africa is the best, is the first producer of copper in the world, even if he's lying, this is what it's saying. You see, it goes with it. So that's the part whereby I realized that in the framework, we had to look at all of those things. I could have could have went on again about now the institution themselves and even the curriculum, but I think that's what you have to read the study.
It's quite interesting.
All lecture on it.
Those are quite amazing observations, I think. Having to identify from learner 1.0, even the instructor, those are very powerful perspectives which you actually do need. And the examples that you're giving, that is what African societies are about. You can't question adults' instruction or the information itself. So, well, with introduction of courses or programs such as quality management, quality engineering, what then does it mean for Africa at large? What are the prospects for such a program? Of course, with UJ embracing for the Industrial Revolution aspects, and what does it mean for the continent?
I'm going to start first of all on the perspective of the university itself. Yes. You know, UJ being the first one to introduce it, put the university on the map already as a leader, as a pioneer. The good thing is when you start something, is everyone looks up to you. And even if they want to build, they'll build based on what you have started, you know. So which is good because the university put itself there on the leader's position. That even if another university wants to start the program, they'll have to build on our curriculum and see, which open doors as well for, for collaboration. Because now we can collaborate with other universities in Cairo, in Congo, and some other countries. And even in Africa itself, now we can also have exchange program and see what you can improve and everything, which puts us on a good on a good place on the map. Even when it comes to research, like the research, for example, that I made, it's one of the few that have been conducted in Africa so far, and then it's still open doors for someone to come and build up on that. But then, when we come as well to on the African perspective, the good thing with that is like, it puts as well Africa on the map to know that we can contribute to the development of the world, to know that as much as we are bringing now, we are growing, there are some talents that we can also attract. Because now I remember when I graduated here, there's one of my students who was like, hey, sir, I never heard about quality engineering. I also want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I also try to explain the student is like, oh, I'm really considering that. You see that we are also attracting talent. But those talent, they are not just coming from South Africa, but they can come from other countries.
Yes.
And the more we work like that, the more we are able to put as well Africa on the map. And we are able as well to bring some new technology, some new way of seeing, and bring something that is African shaped between bracket and that can accommodate us as well.
Yeah. And what are some of the career opportunities that are available when you have this program?
So when you have this program, the very basics one is also you become, how do you call it, a quality auditor.
Okay.
This is, I'm not saying if you have to push all the way to the PhD, no, because we also have the program right now, it goes for masters and PhD.
Right.
Now for advanced diploma, we call it quality management. But UJ was already offering quality. I mean, our department was already offering quality management on an advanced diploma level and honors level. So when you stop at that level, you can become a quality auditor. As I said, you can even become as well a quality engineer in companies. So you are involved with everything that revolves around quality. You can do quality planning. But the limitation maybe with this qualification, it is also it should be combined with another between bracket degree to add more weight. Like on my side, because I did operation management, and you already have the perspective of an operation manager, and then you bring the quality perspective, now we can be like, how can we bring quality into our operations? Same thing on my side, as currently I'm lecturing, I'm like, in my education field, how can I bring quality 4.0 to improve? You see, so that's why we don't have it on a national diploma level already. So it needs to be built from other programs that you have had already. That's a limitation, but then there's that part, and also you can become a researcher. And as I was explaining to you earlier, when you're working with standard of organization, when it comes to designing a QMS, quality management system, actually we even have a module like that called QMS. Actually there's QPI, which is quality planning implementation. Then there's also QMS, which is quality management system, that you start how you can develop the quality management system, how we can improve the standard of the product, the service that we are providing, and everything. But because the field on its own is still new, so research will play really a key role into the advancement of the potential field, the potential topics that can even come in the field.
Yes.
Yeah.
And looking at directing it back to you, the future goals and aspirations that you currently hold. Of course, you have achieved the most at a very young age. Where to from now?
You're asking me earlier about the professorship.
Yeah.
That's one. I don't know if I can say it's still into as I said, it is not that I'm on a short term, it's something that I'm targeting.
Yes.
I'll put it maybe a medium to long term.
All right.
But for now, I really want to involve a lot when it comes to research. And I think as much as I completed my PhD,
Yes.
I'm going to be honest, there's a part of me that still feel like
You
the work is not that I cheated, but the work is not yet completed.
Oh, right,
I think the work will be completed for me when I start seeing the implementation of that framework, to see that, because as we implement, we can see that, oh, okay,
yes,
this was good, but we can do that, and it will bring growth.
Growth,
you know?
indeed.
So for me, the way to right now is to try to collaborate with higher education, with other researchers, to see that what could be the way we could implement this framework here. Even policymakers, you know, the government, because at a point, I know it will be a major shift, but we're also talking about looking at our own curriculum.
Yes.
Now, I know it is something that has already been there for years, but we need today to change ourselves and be like, okay, based on that,
yes,
what is going well, what is not going well, and what we can improve. So I think I will feel like my work has been completed when the implementation will go, which can take forever, which can take years, but hopefully we can try to go there. For me, even if it's something that we can do that in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, it's still fine. But the collaboration part becomes as well very important for me.
Yeah. And for me, that it speaks to to what we usually have. We'll be labeling it Monday motivation, because I'm sensing perseverance, regardless of how long it will take. You're still looking forward to having that framework being implemented for growth. So for a person who's also going through hurdles or struggling at some point, or not sure what to do as a student or as a lecturer, what is your Monday motivation? What is your motivation to a person watching us right now?
My Monday motivation, it's Monday today, right? My Monday motivation personally is just that there's a lot. If I would like to start for my PhD, by the way, I had many people asking me that, Eric, 2 years and everything like that. Didn't you go cut corners? I didn't. As far as I know, I didn't. Yeah. But then one thing that motivated me firstly was I was just happy that if I finish it, I'll be the first in Africa. That was the first motivation. Yeah. But secondly, I was like, it is one thing to be motivated, but how do you go about that? Personally, my secret was, you asked me, I didn't have sleepless nights. I like sleeping. But what I did was, I would sleep early so that I cover my 8 hours sleep, and then I'll work in the morning. But then in the morning, what I will do every day from 6 to 8, I'll give myself 2 hours. 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., those are my hours to focus on my research. I will switch off my cell phone, I only stick to the internet and my laptop, and I work for 2 hours. Now, I realize that I must say, I cannot say that I've been faithful every day like that, but I will do my best that at least 4 days out of 5, I will do that. Out of 5, because in the weekend I was not working. So what I will do is, like, if I give 2 hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you have already given 10 hours of your time in a week to just focus on your PhD. In the morning, I used to like it because then everyone is sleeping first. Secondly, even if you have people that need to send you email, they already send it at night. You will respond it during the course of the day. And then when you get some other people, for example, when it comes to work, my work will start at 9, so I know that after 8, I have almost an hour between brackets to prepare myself. Now, doing that, you will notice that in a month, you are giving yourself at least 35 hours on your PhD or on your work, which is a lot. Trust me, because if you have to look at the combined number of hours that you spent, you might say, I did 2 years, but 2 years, but how many times will you give it yourself? You feel like in 2 years, maybe in a week, you just work for 2 hours. And then you realize that in a whole year, you have worked maybe for, let's say, 24 hours only, and it wasn't enough. That was actually one of the motivation and the way to go forward. But on the other side as well, I must be humble just to say that what motivated me as well was my circle, because I had many people around me that were also doing well. I would take the example of my HOD, Prof. Nita. I think she's one of the good researcher when it comes to in engineering, in our faculty. She's made many contributions, many collaboration. She's even part of the women in engineering. That inspired me. Indeed. There's some, I have as well, one of my mentors in research, Mr. Sambil, is actually the one who introduced me to research. I actually came to him, I was like, sir, I want to do research. The reason why I wanted to do research because I wanted to travel the world. That's it. Because he told me that when there are conferences, we can travel, we present. Even though I didn't so far, but I managed to publish a lot. And everything. So that was a motivation for me. He always tell me he wants to be a professor before 45, and he always say by 5 by force we'll make it. I'm like, you know what, Eric, by 5 by force we'll make something like that. I've heard some other colleagues such as Dr. Katu, who has always inspired me. She's always been working, and one thing I like with her is that that lady knows how to collaborate. When it's about creating relationships with someone, you know what, I want to be like that. I've heard as well Prof. Zach Simpson is actually on he specializes in education engineering, I think. that already was great for me because I didn't know many people in that field. And I was like, when you are surrounded by such a big circle of people doing great, you feel like I don't want to be behind and like
It's contagious, actually.
Yeah, it's contagious. So that's why
it
for me the circle, if I can put a motivation just to summarize, is just surround yourself with people that are doing great, because those people, they will motivate you between bracket. Because when you're surrounded with someone who is doing great, you have two options. Either I walk at your pace, or I just give up, And if you give up, you're going faster than me. That is just the thing. Sometimes I go with my wife at the gym, and as we go with her at the gym, she's on the treadmill, she will tell me, hey, today I burned 200 calories. And I look there, I just did 150, sometimes even 100. I will say, that is nice. I was tired today. But tomorrow, I will also work hard so that I reach at least 200. And I'll be like, today I bring 210. And she will feel jealous. And this is how we started moving from 100 to 200.
It's healthy competition, actually.
Yes, exactly. That's one of the things. And the other thing as well is to remove that narrative that success is a straight line, because many of us, especially when you go for it's good. I've had many students that are like, so I want to do my PhD and everything. I'm like, no, it's fine. But it's because they think that when you're going to get in, things will be well, you'll get your data easily, things will just flow. But you don't realize that there are many challenges that come. As you get in, there's your work. There's personally, as a temp at the university, the biggest challenge for me was I couldn't get is it called? A relief, which means that is one of the staff that can be hired for you to focus on your studies, while the person is taking over your classes. So for me, at the same time, I was still lecturing, supervising students, publishing. I also had to focus on my PhD. It was a lot. So for me, the best thing was give yourself just 2 hours. And after those 2 hours, whether I'm done or not, I'll stop there. I'll continue tomorrow, And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for me to say that, okay, I'm just going to do that in 2 years. That was the perspective, just to say that. But if they told me that this how it would have been, I would have not done it. I'd be like, I'm going to take my time and everything like that. So, but making in mind that things will have not been easy. There will be sometimes hard. There will be challenges. And that's what made it between brackets. It allowed me to go in.
Dr. Eric, thank you so much for coming through today.
Thank you very much for the session.
No, definitely. Well, there you have it, dear viewers. This was my conversation with Dr. Eric. Well, he's the youngest and the first PhD holder in quality engineering in Africa. My name is Bongani, and thank you for joining us in this episode. The motivation was surround yourself with greatness.
The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.